Hi and welcome to my Football Manager save here on FM19, the new game that's just been released. Going to take a look at a few of the new features here and really take a look at the Arsenal squad. I've purposefully chosen Arsenal to familiarise myself with it. This is the beta. So I'm going to take a look today at a brief rundown on the player ratings, whether or not I agree with them. And really just get a feel for kind of what my plans are. As I said, it is the beta here, and I'm really excited to be playing it. And there's a lot of new features. The training is one that I really want to take a good look at. I've had a play around, and I've formalised a plan as to what I plan to do. So let's see where I can take it. You know, I think Arsenal are probably one of the better or more interesting teams to start off. That's purely because in real life they're under new management and there's been a lot of changes. So I'll take you a little bit through the squad. I have had a look at kind of how they've been evaluated. There's a couple of players I think are overrated or overpowered, and there's actually one particular player that I'm surprised that I actually think is massively underpowered, and I'll come to him in a minute. But I guess the first thing to do is take a look at the tactics screen. I think we'll all agree, and I think everyone from what I've seen, the general consensus is this looks fantastic, the new screen, the new layout. I'm really excited about it. And I've actually spent the whole of, so it got released on Thursday night, approximately 6 o'clock, 6:30 I think it was. So I immediately downloaded it and I spent the whole evening without even pressing continue once. Just working everything out and trying to get everything in place, all of the structure of what I want to do. So that's where I am now. I've sorted out three tactics. The original and the main one being the 4-2-3-1 wide, because obviously that's what we played for such a long time. And evaluating the squad. I mean, you know, do we start Aubameyang? Do we start Laka? You know, don't take the starting lineup into a little bit of pinch of salt, because I think as the game goes on, I'll be starting to use Mkhitaryan more as backup for Ozil, because he can play that role quite well. But anyway, looking at the squad itself and kind of how they've been evaluated is quite interesting. This is based on Steve Bold's evaluation. He's got a relatively good potential ability and actual ability. So we'll literally go through one by one and cycle through. I think it's probably the best way to do it. In actual fact, because of that, I can go by my assistant here, or one of the coaches. As you can see, his judging ability is 16 and his potential judging is 16. So this should be relatively or very accurate. So the first one is Petr Cech. I mean, I think we can all agree he's not going to get any better given his age. But I'm still a big fan of Cech, personally. And I think it's about right, the 3.5 stars. I think he's still better than average. I think that's about right. Calum Chambers, who I think's out on loan, is he? Or is he back with us? I think he's out on loan. Yeah, so he's on loan at Fulham. Good. Well, they've got that right. He'll be a player that I'll sell on eventually. So I'm not too worried about how they value him. Mohamed El Neni, who's a little bit of a bit par player in real life under Unai Emery. And again, 3 stars with the potential of 3.5. I think he'll end up 3 stars. He's a very average player. I like him personally, and I was quite happy when he came in. I feel that they've definitely changed his positional value. Before, I think he was more defensively minded. I think it was either Carrilero last time was his sort of main position. But again, I think he's going to be a player in real life and in my game that we're going to see move on. Sorry, Mo. Guendouzi, absolutely love the fact he's come into the squad. I personally feel that he's a bit underpowered in this in terms of potential ability. They say that he's box to box and deep line. I am training him in box to box, and I want him to eventually be box to box for me. And I've done an additional focus on final third. They've upgraded this, which is probably something I'll move on to. But he is someone that I'm going to give, just like Emery is in real life, I'm going to give him a lot of game time. I think he is going to be a great player. And I'm a little bit miffed that it's kind of 3 with the potential of possibly 4. Unless this is a mistake that my coach is making on it, I personally think it's a bad move. I personally feel that it's... I think he's worth a bit more personally than that. So I'm surprised by that. Weak stat attribute needs to be more clinical in front of goal. Okay, well that can come in time. And also being, I guess, new, that he tends to be a peripheral figure in the squad. Rob Holding, probably about right in his potential ability. He's someone that is definitely going to be staying with me for a bit. I'm going to give him a fair crack of the whip. And yeah, there's not really much else to say about him. I think that's about right for his rating of current of 2.5, potential of 3.5. So he's got room to grow. Alex Iwobi, bags of ability in this guy, and I think this season in real life he's been absolutely fantastic, and he's going to get better. I'm personally training him as a radamateur. And it goes a little bit onto my actual tactics itself, but when we had Alexis, I played this game, I tend to find that the radamateur was a really good system to play when you had one up front and you had Alexis coming in as a radamateur. And although that's really not Alex Iwobi's kind of natural, I think we'll all agree that one of his kind of downfalls at the moment is his shooting ability. So to have him as almost like a secondary striker, if you like, is surprising. But being that this is a computer game, and being that it will go how I want, I should be training him as a radamateur, not an inside forward. There you go. Let's give him a go at playing that inside forward, the inside forward role, but as a radamateur, as a secondary striker. We're going to do his additional focus on shooting, and I think that's good. I think that works for me. And look, it's my game. That's what I want to do. Kolasinac, probably about right. 3 stars. 3. Has a competitive streak which can occasionally lead to him bending the rules. I personally don't feel that that's his only negative. And again, I'm always going to compare the stats to real life, because obviously this is a game and they work very hard to make it realistic. But one of his biggest problems, I personally think, is his defensive positioning. So his positioning is down at 12 on here, which is fine. And I selected his training to be, of course, wing-back support, because that is the role of the left-back in all 3 of my formations. And his additional focus... I swear I changed it to defensive positioning, but anyway, there we go. It will be defensive positioning. Cost the boss. Let's have a look at his current and potential. 4 and 4. I think they've been a bit generous there. I think he's on the slide a little bit because obviously his age. He's just been out with a massive injury, and I think they've been. I think he might be a little bit overpowered with that. On 4 stars, personally, I think it's. I think they've been a bit generous there. Nevertheless, I'll take it, and yeah, happy with that. Lacazette is 3.5, and this is what I mean. So Lacazette is rated at 3.5 current and 3.5 potential, and Koscielny is at 4, and I just feel that makes me feel a bit uneasy personally. So. Yeah, it's a surprise. It's a surprise on that one. So Leno, current ability 3.5, potential ability 3.5. For a player who is (26) years old and a goalkeeper, that surprises me that he is basically considered to be on a par to Petr Cech, who is 36 And I am a little bit miffed that there's no room here for him to kind of grow and improve on. Personally, I find that a surprise. I find it a shock. So that's a bit of a shame. I think personally, I feel that there's quite a few player values of potential and current that need looking at, and this is just Arsenal. Liechtenstein, I haven't really seen enough of him to make a judgment on, but current 3 and potential 3, fair enough. I haven't seen enough of him, but what I have seen of him in real life, I've really liked. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, so here's a player with a great potential, injured in real life at the moment. And again, his current is 3 and his potential is 3, maybe 4. And I find that surprising as well. So let's have a look. Be interested to see where they feel his best position is. It looks like they're saying central midfielder. And I'm training him at central midfield personally. He is valued as a wonder kid though, so that surprises me. What I might do is just have a look through and see if anyone else's view changes. So what's Steve Bold's? Yeah. Okay. But anyway, this is okay. So I think he's going to be a very good player as long as he stays injury free. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up becoming a left back as opposed to a central midfielder. But personally, for the purposes of this computer game and my save, I'm keeping him as a central midfielder. I am developing him in box to box, and I'm going to get him to work on his strength a little bit while he's still young. So I think physical attributes are quite important on this game. So I'm still got him working on that, and I'm going to be making him a box to box, which means that in theory we'll have the future of us. We'll have Guendouzi and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, but both as box to box, which is useful. Mesut, probably my favourite current Arsenal player at the moment, well, without doubt. He is 29 in this game currently, obviously 30 in real life. He turned 30 the other day. And it's very hard to kind of work out where you're going to improve on him, because as an advanced playmaker, his stats have always been, and still are, really good. Really good. And he's too old to get him to start working on strength, because the stats in this game, once you get over a certain age, to make any progress on strength is difficult. So I've set him to shooting. I'm just wondering if there's any way that I could get to improve work rate. See, I'm tempted to put him on endurance, you know, because if that improves his work rate, which I think the general consensus is lacking. So I might set that to endurance, to be fair. And sorry, I didn't actually look at star rating, did I? So 4 and 4. So okay. I mean, I'm biased because he's my favourite player in the world at the moment, and to be 4 stars is probably about right. In honesty, I think if he was 4.5, I think it would be a little bit generous to make him 4.5. Mickey, so 3.5. Okay, fair enough. Poor heading, it's not really something I'm going to ask him to do, and finding it hard to adapt into the squad. Again, he's new. He came in the tail end of last season, didn't he? He was this swap deal for Alexis. And it says here that his best position is attacking midfielder central, which is what I was saying earlier. And so I've chosen to train him as an inside forward support. So I'm training him actually as a right winger, because we don't have a lot of cover there. And I'm getting him to work on his shooting for obvious reasons, that, you know, finishing is 12, long shots is 10, and that's what the shooting training does. So that's Mickey. Nacho Monreal, massively underrated in all Arsenal fans. I think a lot of Arsenal fans value him, but I think he is underrated in terms of the general consensus in the Premier League, and he was incredibly consistent last year, and someone who admittedly I didn't rate when he first came in. but I have to say in the last couple of seasons he's really proved me wrong. And to have him at 3 stars is probably about right. It's probably about right. But he is consistent and he is a worker. Let's actually have a look at their work rate 15. Okay, composure, concentration, decisions. So I'm actually training him. Again, he's coming towards the end of his career. His stats aren't going to improve dramatically. But I've got him as defending as a wing back because that is what my position, the general positions are for the back 4 and the left back. And I've set it to passing, but I don't expect his attributes to change much. Mustafi, so central defender, and I'm saying to improve his passing. You can't in this version of the game get them to improve your tackling. You can do defensive positioning, but there's nothing to do with tackling. And for that very reason, I had to choose something else, and that was passing. Interestingly, his decisions are 14, which I find surprising. But nevertheless, that's Mustafi. What's his star rating? 3 with a potential of 3.5 is probably about right. Probably about right. Reece Nelson is out on loan. He has the potential. He might even be valued as a wonder kid. But when he comes back next summer, he will be playing on right wing for me, and I will be developing him further. The only reason I haven't brought him back is because I do think it will do him good to play out in Hoffenheim, and in real life he's absolutely bossing it. So I'm happy with that report of him, and I think he'll get more game time on loan at Hoffenheim, but we'll keep tabs on that. In fact, am I able to recall him? Because that would be interesting. No, there's not an option to recall him anyway. Oh, cannot be cancelled within the first 28 days. Okay, so maybe we'll wait a month and go on. Eddie Nketiah is someone that I've raised from my from the youth. He isn't in the first team, but one of my tactics is actually 3 up front, and that's obviously when you're chasing a game, and that'll be Eddie, that'll be Laka, and that'll be Aubameyang. And I need to look at bringing in another striker, maybe not this season, but further down the line. Eddie is an advanced forward in this game. His stats have improved dramatically from last year's game, which is obvious because he got a lot more game time and really grabbed the headlines. I think, was it Norwich last season in the Carling Cup or whatever it's called these days. So he's definitely someone that I want to fast track to the first team, and the best way to do that is to actually bring him into the first team. So development wise, I'm actually training him as a complete forward because I like my strikers to be able to do it all, and I think he's got the capabilities of doing so. I remember in last year's game, his heading ability, I spent hours on trying to improve, and it really held him back. But it seems that in this game, he's got a lot more of a balanced attribute set. It was really poor, and his jumping reach as well. So I'm looking to bring him instead of being an advanced forward to being a complete forward, so that eventually when Aubameyang and Lacazette move on, we've got a ready-made replacement. So I'm going complete forward, and I'm going strength as well because his strength is low, and actually his strength does his jumping reach as well, which falls into the heading stats. So I think that's a good move. Ospina is out on loan, and I'm not overly fussed. I think we all know his time at the club is done. Rambo, what do you say about Rambo? So contract negotiations aside, because truthfully I don't even know what I'm going to do with him and his contract at the moment. I haven't even considered that. 3.5. I'm surprised that it's not 4, but okay, we'll go with 3.5. It seems that a lot of players, and it might just be the general way that they're done, are lower rated. So I don't know if it's harder and they've kind of moved everything almost a smidge down. But I thought Aaron Ramsey would be a 4-star, so to be 3.5 is fair enough, and it actually works in the trend of the remainder of all the other players. When it seems like there seems to be a general trend that almost I'm surprised by the ratings that they seem to be almost a shade lower than what I think they should be. So I've got him as box-to-box midfielder, and I've got him working on defensive positioning. I think we're past that, but obviously a common complaint is that he doesn't always come back and defend. I don't know if that's by design or what that is, but for that very reason, I'm going to get him to work on it. Emil Smith-Rowe is another success story. He was great in pre-season. In real life, again, potential ability is low to be 3, potentially 4, for a player that's so young. To have 2.5 current and 3, possibly 4 potential is a surprise to me. I am going to use him around the same time as Nicotia. I've got him training in advanced playmaker support because, one, that's where the coach reports say his best position is, and 2, that I'm going to get Mesut to tutor him at some point. I've got his additional focus at shooting because, again, there seems to be, in his attributes, there seems to be a dip in his shooting, but actually, having seen that, I've just seen his strength ability. So let's actually go on to strength because he needs to work on that, otherwise he'll get pushed off the ball too easy. Socrates, again, new player, coming towards the end of his career, definitely needs to work on his heading, but I can't see there being too many decent improvements. So I don't even think you can get him to work on his heading anyway, can you? No. So we're going to work on his passing. That's a real surprise that his heading is as poor as what it is. It's not something I've noticed in real life. But 3.5, I think that's the same as last year actually, Socrates. But anyway, that's him. Lucas Torreira, fantastic player, massive. He's going to be big for Arsenal. I think we've bought him at a good time as well. 3.5 with the potential to 4 stars. Fair enough. Weakest attribute is his heading, which is probably because he's about 5 foot. And again, he's a peripheral figure in this world, but that's to be expected. I'm going to go on to my training in a bit because I've picked up a few bits on this that I kind of want to look at. But for training purposes, I'm actually having him as a central midfielder in defend mode. And his additional focus, I'm setting his strength because, again, he looks, or his stats say that he's quite weak in defence. And that's kind of a trait amongst Arsenal. So there's a lot of physical training going on. And Danny Welbeck, I'm actually coaching to be a Radamateur. And I'm getting him to work on his shooting, his finishing. Fantastic work rate, Danny. If he can work on his long shots and his actual finishing, he's going to be back up to Iwobi, but the two are probably going to interchange quite a lot and swap around. They're both going to get quite a lot of game time. And he is. I wouldn't be surprised if this is 3 and 3. Yeah, there you go, 3 and 3 for Danny Welbeck, which is fair enough. And Granit Xhaka, current ability 3, potential ability 3.5, which will probably drop to 3 anyway. Here's another player that I am training in the box-to-box. So I'm a little bit overstaffed in the box-to-box, which is why it might make sense for me to try and shift Aaron Ramsey on and get a bit of money for him. I've got a few plans of players that I want to bring in, which I'll go through in a different video. But for the sake of this, I think Granit Xhaka, we all know that his defensive positioning is an issue, and actually his stats show that. So his marking, his positioning, I've got that as his secondary focus or his additional focus with a box-to-box midfielder support. And him and Torreira, from what I've seen in real life, those two seem to be the best partnership at the moment, in my personal opinion. So it makes sense for me to have those two working together from the get-go in this game. I can't see any reason why not. Aubameyang, so that's 4 and 4, so that's interesting. He is rated as better than Lacazette, which might mean that I give him the nod. There are one of my tactics, I've got 2 up front. I'm not a fan of playing this guy out on the wing either. It's not something I'm going to do, so it's very much going to be Aubameyang and Lacazette as the 2 options up front, and Nketiah as backup. I would imagine he's a peripheral figure in the squad if I looked at the reports. Secondary group, okay. I'm going to do a lot of work around team bonding and things like that to try and get stuff to get the players working together. Hector Bellerin, that's probably about right. 3.5 to 4 potential. Doesn't have any strength, so it's fairly poor in the air. Now, my tactic, which is one that I used in the last Football Manager and I'm using in this one, is paramount that you've got a decent right back, because obviously Hector Bellerin is a decent right back. He's an incredible right back, and so it's important that we, 1, keep hold of him, but 2, we make the most of him. And so I've got him training as complete wing back support. I would have rather trained him in complete wing back attack, but for some reason the game won't allow me, and I'm not sure why. It takes it out, so I don't know why that is, but because of that I'm training him in complete wing back support. Petr Cech, well, we're back round to the beginning, aren't we? I mean, that was Cech and Calum Chambers, yeah. So looking at the squad, I've got a few ideas on what I want to do in areas that I want to improve. I want to improve the left back situation. I'm not going to do too much with the central defence. I'm going to look at the left wing situation and the right wing situation, because I feel like we're a little bit understaffed on the wings. I think we're okay up front. I think in midfield we've got enough players to at least get us by. You know, we're not looking to make wholesale changes. So, yeah, I will be working on that. I'll look at training next probably and give you a rundown on training. But I hope this is useful, and I hope it's insightful for how the players are rated. So, yeah, thanks very much.